The late George Carlin, great comedian, had an irreverent and outrageous routine called stuff. It went like this. But, okay, don't worry. I have edited his profane routine for a family audience. Anything you know anything about George Carlin, he can be very profane. George. Sorry, I'm late. I was in the wrong dressing room. You know, you gotta have a dressing room because you gotta have a place for your stuff. That's all. A little place for your stuff. That's all I want. That's all you need in life. A little place for your stuff, you know. I can see it on your tables. Everybody's got a little place for their stuff. This is my stuff. That's your stuff. That's his stuff. Their stuff. Everybody's got their little piles of stuff. I mean, that's all you need in life. A little place for your stuff. I mean, really, when you think about it, that's all your house is, right? A place to keep your stuff. If you didn't have so much stuff, you wouldn't need a house. And you could just, walk around all the time. Free, unburdened by all your stuff. A house is just a little pile of stuff with a cover on it. And you can see that when you're taking off in an airplane. You look down and you see everybody's little pile of stuff. All the little piles of stuff. And when you leave your house, you gotta lock it up. I mean, wouldn't want anybody to come and take some of my stuff. And they always take the good stuff. They never bother with all that junk you're saving. They really don't want your 4th grade math papers. All they want is the shiny stuff. I mean, that's what your house is, right? A place to keep your stuff. When you go out, and then you can go out and guess what? More stuff. In fact, sometimes you got to move. You got to get a bigger house. Why? Because there's no room for your stuff anymore. You move, and you got to put your stuff in storage. I mean, there's a whole industry dedicated to watching over your stuff. Did you ever notice that when you go to somebody else's house, you never quite feel perfectly at home? You know why? There's no room for your stuff. Somebody else's stuff is all over the place. And if you stay overnight, unexpectedly, they give you a little bedroom to sleep in. A bedroom they have not used in about 11 years. Because someone died in it 11 years ago, and they haven't moved any of his stuff. And right next to the bed, there's usually a dresser or a bureau, and there's no room for your stuff on it. Somebody else's stuff is on the dresser. Probably that guy who died 11 years ago. Have you noticed that their stuff is junk and your junk is stuff? And you say, get that junk out of here and let me put my stuff down. And sometimes you leave your house and you go on vacation and you got to take some of your stuff with you. You got to take about 2 big suitcases full of stuff when you go on vacation. You know, you got to take a smaller version of your house. It's the second version of your stuff. And you're going to fly all the way to Honolulu. And you get down to the hotel room in Honolulu. And you open up your suitcase and you put away all your stuff. Oh, there's a place for my stuff. Put a little bit of stuff there, put some more here, put some more there. How about over there? Oh, we got more room than stuff. We can't have that. We got to go out. We got to buy more stuff. George Carlin's stuff reminds me of the Israelites, freed from slavery in Egypt. They had begun their long journey through the wilderness. It didn't take too long for them to start longing for the good old days back in Egypt and all the stuff they had left behind there. They fondly remembered the meat and the bread and the full stomachs and plenty of water and a stable routine. And of course, the great irony is that all that stuff back in Egypt was killing them. So why do they want to go back to all the stuff? George Carlin's routine suggests an answer. They, like we, want to accumulate stuff because stuff makes us feel safe and secure. We drag around all that stuff because the stuff assures us that all is okay, even though the world around us is continually in flux and change. The Israelites found themselves alone in the wilderness, alone with their leader, alone without all their stuff. And they only had God and His promise. Now you think that should have been enough, but it was not enough. They had to have their stuff. So they complained. The same thing happens in today's gospel. Jesus had just fed a huge crowd of 5,000 people with a few loaves of bread and fish. The crowd was so infatuated with Jesus' power that they wanted to make Jesus their bread king because they wanted more stuff. But Jesus would have nothing to do with that. He flees in a boat to Capernaum, only to have the crowd once again go along the shoreline and intercept him because they want more stuff. Everyone wants more stuff. As George Carlin makes clear, this stuff is much more than the stuff we can put in our mouths and chew with our teeth. This isn't just stuff that we can pack in a suitcase, or stuff into our wallets, or stuff into a bank account. This stuff has religious significance. In other words, this stuff assures us that our lives matter. This is the stuff we trust to keep us safe when all else seems to be crumbling. Isn't this always what the great comedians have always done? Their jokes expose the hypocrisy in our lives. They make us laugh at the absurdity of our collection of stuff. Like Jesus and the prophets before him, comedians expose the embarrassing and deadly truth from which we are all trying to flee. Namely, that stuff in the end does not make our lives more meaningful. We can never have enough stuff to keep us safe. Stuff always, in the end, kills us. We cannot live with stuff, and we cannot live without stuff. And the George Carlins of this world point out the absurdity of it all. But they have nothing more to offer us either. I mean, all we can do is grin and bear it. But not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Not the God who led Israel out of slavery into the freedom of the Exodus and the Promised Land. Not the God whom Jesus called Father, Daddy. This God offers stuff, but it is holy stuff. Because this stuff is totally different, utterly unique, totally set apart from the other stuff of this world. Even though the Israelites complain, God still graciously and generously covers the ground every morning with a bread-like substance that satisfies their hunger for the day. And there is just enough to last the day. There is just enough to keep sustaining them on their journey. There is just enough to keep them trusting the gracious God who would not turn his back on them, even though they had complained. So stunned by this holy stuff. I mean, they didn't even know what to name it or what to call it. All they could say was, manna, manna. In Hebrew, that means, what is it? What is it? Manna. Of course, the Israelites wanted to treat God's holy stuff as it was just like any other stuff. Remember how they would hoard it? They would hide it, the extra portions, in their suitcases, believing that only with more stuff could they be truly safe. But the stuff rotted and became the food of death. God's holy stuff could not be transformed into just another version of the same old stuff that fills this world. The crowd following Jesus in today's gospel does the same thing. They think that Jesus' miraculous feeding of the 5,000 is just another version of the same old stuff. Jesus' multiplication of loaves and fish was not a gracious gift from God, but just another scheme to get more stuff out of Jesus. You could just hear them saying, Jesus, Jesus, we will believe. We will follow you if you give us what we want. If you give us a new job. If you give us better health. If you give us more happiness. If you give us a new house. If you give us more stuff. But Jesus will have no part of such foolishness again. He is not about into making deals. And he fled that crowd. He would not be so manipulated. But, there There's always that great but, isn't it? But just like what had happened many years before in the wilderness, when God gave the wilderness what is it? Manna. In spite of their complaining, God surprises us again. Instead of fleeing, Jesus offers himself. The bread that Jesus brings into this world is more than just food for the stomach. It is bread from heaven. It is the bread of life. It is more than just more stuff to clutter the closet or pack in the suitcase. Jesus' stuff is utterly unique. There is nothing else like it in the whole world. It is holy stuff. Jesus says, I am the bread of life. I am the holy stuff that you have been looking for. So give me your fears, your worries, your doubts, all that stuff that is weighing you down, all the stuff that you are trying to carry to Honolulu and beyond, all the stuff that is killing you, I will carry for you all the way to the end, where it will crush me just as it will crush you. But that is not the end of the story, is it? I will also give you my stuff, my life. Even though I was crushed by it all, the Father smiled, and I rose again. So I can give you the love that no one or nothing else, no other stuff can ever hope to do. Your hearts will never hunger or thirst again. You will always know that you matter, not because of the stuff you've stuffed in your pockets, but because you have me, Jesus. George Carlin ridicules the notion that the meaning of life can be found in stuff. But Jesus promises that the meaning of life is found in stuff. Holy stuff. His stuff. The stuff of his love and mercy. In him, the stuff we can count on no matter what. The same stuff we all got at the font. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And you know, that changes everything. We can at last see the stuff of this world for the foolishness that it is. And we can glare at the world and say, stuff it. When we look at the stuff we still have, it even looks different. I remember last month seeing someone on a TV interview after his home had been washed away in a horrible flood. And I expected to see someone all broken up and despairing. But instead, this fellow said something amazing. He said, all that stuff, it was only stuff. I still got Jesus. He may have lost his stuff, but he had holy stuff. And because of God's holy stuff, the ordinary stuff of our daily lives is also holy. We're able to use our time, talent, and treasure, not just to accumulate more stuff, but to use it in unique, holy ways to meet the needs and satisfy the hungers of the world around us. We can feed the world with the love of God, with the bread of life. You know? And the world can never have too much of this kind of stuff. Oh, and for that, what can we say? Thanks be to God.